witness testifying to swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth under the pain and penalty of perjury. Thank you, sir. Have a seat. Sergeant Durkee.
Yes, sir. Again, Sergeant Durkee, Maryland State Police, currently assigned to Licensing Division, Handgun Permit. Starting June 13th, 2000.
Sergeant Durkee, I'm going to interrupt you. Do you have an existing permit, sir?
Yes, I do.
I know you have the Meetings Act, unless you waive it, it's required that you go into closed session to look at that recommendation to you.
I would like to wait a little bit. Yes.
Clearly understand there's people that are recording audio, have live, I don't know where the TV is being transmitted or recorded, but you are aware that those factors are going on at this time.
Yes, I am.
So, go ahead, Sergeant Durkee.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
On June 13th, 2016, the applicant submitted a modification request to the Maryland State Police Handgun Permit Section. It was assigned permit number. The applicant's existing permit had previously been renewed on March 18th of 2016 based on documentation presented as a business owner, and was issued the restriction valid only while conducting business as owner of, not valid where firearms are prohibited by law. The applicant's modification letter requested a non-restricted permit citing his OPM data breach letter and possible fraudulent activity on his bank accounts as his good and substantial reason. Based on the documentation submitted, the applicant was sent a shortage request on July 7th, 2016, requesting evidence of any active threats against him personally. On July 24th, the applicant provided a one-sentence statement from a stating, quote, "I personally attest I have witnessed threats against me on multiple occasions," end quote. The applicant was contacted requesting that simple details such as an approximate date, location, suspect, nature of the statements or actions made be included in any statement made by to allow us to make an accurate assessment in the modification of his permit. The applicant did not submit any additional documentation. Therefore, the request to modify his permit was denied on August 1st, 2016. It continues to be the position of the department that Public Safety 5307 allows the Secretary to limit the geographic area, circumstances, or times of the day, week, month, or year in which a permit is effective. The purpose of this restriction is to tailor the use of the permit to the good and substantial reason to be armed. The applicant's good and substantial reason to be armed arises from their business activities, then it is appropriate to restrict the permit to those activities. In such a case, the applicant does not have a good and substantial reason to be armed at all times. Had it been the intent of the General Assembly that any reason supporting the issuance of a handgun permit would justify the applicant to be armed at all times, it would not have enacted Public Safety 5307. Case law does not permit a person to determine their own good and substantial reason. It is the opinion of the Secretary of Maryland State Police that there is no basis to modify the applicant's existing permit. Thank you.
Any questions of the troopers in their testimony?
No.
It's 6:45. You have 30 minutes.
Okay. In 2014, after submitting my application and following the background investigation, it was determined that I met the requirements within Maryland law and was issued a permit to carry a handgun. As he noted, that was renewed again in March of 2016. In May of 2016, I formally requested an address change and a restriction removal modification of my permit based on my personal information being compromised in the OPM Act. Also, as a business owner, my hours vary considerably. I can leave my house, go to the medical practice, leave the medical practice, go to the communications company. While I'm at lunch at the communications company or in between jobs, I can go do business for the medical practice, then go back to the communications company and then to the medical practice afterwards. It's normal for me to do that. Complicate things even more. I'm also a licensed appraiser and have 7 real estate properties as well. On July 7th, Master Trooper stated that the information I provided was insufficient for an unrestricted permit. I need to provide more information. that's when I provided my third-party witness about threats against me. I was never contacted to provide more information or more data, requesting details or incidents or anything like that. My witness has never been contacted. So it was a simple letter that I sent, assuming that the Maryland State Police was going to call him and get his side of things versus me taking it all out. So I received a letter that I had been denied and stated that I had 10 days to request an informal review or a hearing in front of this board. So that was that. Then on August 17th, just 8 days after my request for an informal review and hearing were submitted, I was pulled over for a minor traffic violation. Even though I do not have the duty to inform, I respectfully informed the trooper that I was legally carrying my firearm, and that after her giving me the go-ahead, I produced my permit and my driver's license. After running my information, she asked me some questions about my permit, specifically a letter from the licensing division about my permit status. I informed her that I had received a letter from the licensing division that my permit restriction removal had been denied. Excuse me. However, my permit was still valid. Even showed her the email exchange between Master Trooper Harmel and myself on my phone. I explained to her what restrictions were, how I was carrying within those restrictions, even provided a receipt for my business transaction just 30 minutes prior, showing her that I was within my restrictions. The next step, I found myself in handcuffs. I was on the side of the road in handcuffs for over an hour in full view of my friends, co-workers, customers, and patients driving by. I'm not only a firearms enthusiast, but also a car enthusiast, and had a fairly rare car that I had shipped up to me from Texas. So there's no question who was on the side of the road when my friends and family and customers drove by. Of course, that's what I was thinking about while I was being arrested. So after an hour on the side of the road, I was transported to where I repeatedly requested they contact Sergeant Knob with the handgun unit, and was told repeatedly he is off duty and therefore unavailable. I asked them to contact Sergeant Knob because on December 15, 2015, Sergeant Knob, who was in charge of the handgun permit unit at the time, testified before this very board that he personally receives notifications from police officers all across the state when they have a person detained and under immediate investigation regarding the permit where he determines if a person is or is not in violation of the restrictions. In his testimony before the board, Sergeant Knob indicated this is a regular occurrence and that rarely is anyone arrested for carrying outside their restrictions. After being processed, I was taken to the detention center, and after over a 6-hour ordeal, I was finally released to stand outside in the rain, waiting on my wife and freshly woken up, not too happy about it, 3-year-old son to pick me up from jail, all for being polite to the police. Of course, with so much at stake, I left a voicemail from my lawyer on my way home. The following day, August 18th, I was contacted by Detective Sergeant Bark from the who told me that the gun center had misinterpreted the information regarding my permit. My permit was in fact valid, and that I could retrieve my seized property. Although already behind on my other obligations due to being in jail the night before, I was en route to the barracks when I received another call from Detective Sergeant Barr stating that Sergeant Lopez from the Maryland Gun Center contacted them, that I could not retrieve my seized property, and that I should expect more charges in the near future for carrying outside my restrictions. I'll never tell you that because the Maryland State Police, after arresting me on a huge error on their part, was trying to cover their tracks by placing charges against me, using the permit restrictions as a tool. During the previously mentioned testimony of Sergeant Knob, he also stated, in a wink and a nod type manner, that talking on cell phone while doing business would fit within the permit restrictions, suggesting that restrictions were so insignificant that one need not to worry. Excuse me. I'm living proof this is far, far from the case in the real world. After being arrested for an error committed by members of his unit, they attempted to use those very restrictions against me for their justification. So there I was, already had my rights violated, wondering what other charges I was facing, if I could own a gun, if I was going to lose my clearance, lose my job, house, retirement, pension, healthcare, everything. On top of that, after being in handcuffs 5 of the 6 hours the night before, my right hand, my dominant hand, the hand I use for work all day, was still numb. It took too much for me to get the full feeling back in my hand. Thankfully, I was in a position to hire a lawyer, which by the fees when you call a lawyer about a gun charge start around $3,500. Who met with the state's attorney and agreed the charges were not warranted. On August 26th, I met with Lieutenant Garrett, and she was the commander of the barracks to retrieve my property. Gave me this nice souvenir box I brought with me today. On August 30th, Maryland State Police contacted me for my informal review, which I decided against having. I didn't see any reason to meet with the same agency that imposed the restrictions in the first place that are not required by law, the same agency that never updated my address permit request that I complied with under law, the same agency that violated my rights by falsely arresting me, the same agency that told me to retrieve my seized property just to tell me never mind and to expect more charges, the same agency that had the serial number of my firearm entered in their system incorrect. Thanks for their thanks. I mean, there's more, but hopefully I'm painting a pretty good picture of what happened. On September 21st, I went to request a DVD of my arrest. At the barracks, in another error on their part, Sergeant Parker told me that I had to have a lawyer request the DVD for me. Shortly after leaving the barracks, Lieutenant Ramirez contacted me, told me that I was given incorrect information that he'd provide me the DVD of my arrest for a $75 fee. I don't think there's anything on that DVD that pertains to my case. However, I do have a copy for each one of you if you'd like it. I won't charge you the $75. So after watching the DVD, I just had more questions. So I filed a public information request for the information related to my unlawful arrest. Maryland State Police took more than 2.5 times what the law allows to provide me with that. I had to involve the Maryland State Ombudsman to get a response to that. I feel the information is still incomplete. They're withholding information I'm legally entitled to. As a matter of fact, I spoke with the Ombudsman February 14th and 15th, because I'm still trying to get documents the Maryland State Police are withholding for me. If there's nothing to hide, why won't they provide? Another thing that happened on February 14th is I met with the OPM investigator and discussed my arrest. So the full repercussions of how my unlawful arrest has impacted my life is still up in the air. In closing, I'd like to point out that in July 2016, the board heard a case of another applicant who was a supervisory employee and treasurer of a political organization in Maryland, who cited the same fears and scenario I lived through, and they were granted an unrestricted permit. Further, the risk of being arrested by the errors made by the Maryland State Police is greater than the presumed risk presented to the public when I am carrying a firearm with an unrestricted permit. I do not pose any greater risk to the public when carrying a firearm while on lunch break from work than I do while actively engaging in business, such as holding a business-related conversation over a telephone as described by Sergeant Alvin in previous testimony. In closing, I'd like to thank the board for their time and request the board overturn the decision by the Maryland State Police and remove the restrictions on my hands.
Were you wanting to have this box provided as an exhibit?
No, which was my briefcase for today.
And I have a couple quick questions for both you and the MSP. Sergeant Durkee, I know this is a very one-sentence line here from has a contact information for his telephone and email. Did any investigator ever contact this individual with the threat?
Sir, no, they did not.
Tell us why.
We rely on the applicant, again, as you even stated tonight, the applicant has the burden of proof to establish a good and substantial reason. A one sentence line stating that he's received he's been threatened on multiple occasions. Wouldn't it be reasonable to assume that somebody, was requesting something like a non-restricted permit, that they would include something to the effect on such approximate such and such a date, such and such a location, an individual, identified individual, circumstances, nature of the incident? We feel that that's reasonable. And
okay. Your business says what does it state on your handgun permit? You're while conducting business as what? You stated two or three different And also, in your early testimony, you go to another job.
Yes, that's not encompassed in my current permit.
Okay, well, that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom.
Okay.
Obviously, there might be an issue here where obviously you have different businesses. If you're traveling at different times of night, you respond different days, your stuff is very intertwined.
Yes.
Obviously, this is a very good example of what happens when the ambiguity of the permit allows something like this to happen. It appears in this case it was a error in the MSP gun section that the trooper did their job correctly on the street. At the same time, what I need to do with this, to research this case and make a decision, I need to know what are the other businesses you're involved in. If you could just restate that one.
Oh, okay. I wasn't positive what you're asking.
Well, if your permit only says one business and you have several, there's many people have been before this board and they may be a handgun instructor and they own a business and they work for somebody else.
Yes, I understand.
Please clarify that.
I'm a technician at a communications company. I'm a licensed appraiser and have 7 real estate properties.
Okay, and your page, you meant just states regarding business?
Correct.
Okay. When you made your applications, did you state to the state police these other businesses you were involved in?
My original permit application, no, I did not.
Or I mean, in your renewal even? Did you address any of that?
No, I did not.
Other question?
Yeah, I got a question. My file doesn't appear to include this application.
It was, when it was sent, I actually contacted MSP today, and they sent me the original file, but that was like late this afternoon, and I picked it up on the way here.
Well, I don't have a file, I'm not happy with that. I certainly can't deliberate on this without a file. Ms. Judah's in the same boat. Do you have a complete file of the application? Not the original.
Which I'll just point out is another error on the MSP.
Well, in order to know the board, everything is supposed to be reviewed from the very beginning. So we do look for all that information, the original application and reviewers' notes. Today, when I read the files, I did contact MSP to note that this original application was not included. And I believe because this was for a modification, not for the original application, they didn't include that. I would point out this is the only time I've ever gotten a case file that did not have the application in it. Anyway, that's all the facts as I know it. Questions?
I'm sorry, who was?
Just a friend of mine. Basically, as I stated, I own a medical practice. There's people that aren't happy with some of our fees. There's not many fans of the healthcare and insurance situation in the country right now. Me being the business manager usually takes the brunt of that.
Does he work in your business?
No, he does not. He just happened to be with me. Like our no-show fee, if you're 10 minutes late, we cancel your appointment because we run on time all the time. We actually just raised that to $100. People aren't happy about that. It's not a financial punishment to them, it's more incentive for them to show up. I mean, it costs me a heck of a lot more than that $100 to keep the lights on at our business. So we want you to show up.
So he's witnessed you have threats on multiple occasions regarding issues like that?
Yes, just because we hang out.
Those are the nature of the threats.
Yes, and I really don't know who these people are, but they know who I am just being the business manager. So I don't know every single one of our patients, but they certainly know when I'm calling and under bill collecting and the like.
This question?
So we're still missing documentation from his.
I got a copy of it, like I said, this afternoon, but I was en route here. I picked up on today when I was reviewing the case files.
How about if we take a few minutes and review that? I'd like to review it and give us my answers.
I have 2
I have to state there's a general concern from the board of the lack of follow-up, even though it was a one sentence letter. The information was provided with the time to make a phone call or an email contact. Would have been good customer service. I understand. I don't feel it's very credible, but it is part of the file.
I was told by the trooper that handled it, sir, he did contact him. He's saying that he didn't. I mean, I don't know.
We have no notes or any information regarding that. The last item, just speaking for the board, is that in the de novo hearing, we start fresh. And we're supposed to have all the information. I had a conversation about this with Sergeant Moriarty at the last board meeting about we need to have the information because this is a fresh trial for us as a administrative board. And Mr. Leggett, if you could give me any further advice, is that correct, sir? I'm stating. The de novo board, and we should have all the file information to be able to render the decision.
So the board should certainly request any information it feels it needs to make a decision, certainly.
Other discussions or statements from the board, please?
Okay, I've had a chance to review this information, review the application, review the question 23, the nature of the request. I do have a couple of questions that we have to make sure that I'm clear. The basis for your arrest was a mistake that occurred as to the status of your permit as a whole, or your permit as it relates to restrictions?
My arrest was due to my permit as a whole. And when they went to drop that, they brought back and tried to use restrictions against me as well.
Okay, can you explain that in a little more detail?
They arrested me due. I'm sorry. I was arrested by the trooper due to my permit showing revoked in the Maryland Gun Center registry. Okay. So that was the basis of my arrest. The following day, that was cleared up, and I was told to come retrieve my property. Then I was called back and said, "Don't come here. You can't have your stuff. We're going to charge you for carrying outside your restrictions."
And were you in fact charged with that?
No, I was not. I actually got a lawyer who went to the state's attorney to get that dropped. So the charges ended up being dropped after I went through the legal process. Okay. To great expense to my parents.
Question? Question, Mr. Collins? Mr. Judah? Anyone care to make a motion? I make a motion to overturn the Maryland State Police and issue Mr. non-restricted permit, not only because of the error that occurred with the in regards to the mistake on the gun center regarding your license, but with multiple businesses you have, business being very intertwined, this board has before stated the ambiguity of the law, the risk with Senate Bill 281, the Gun Safety Act of 2013, and the fact that the permit restrictions put a person at risk. If you are a person who just was the baker and went in at 7 in the morning and left at 3 and only went to the bank, it's a little bit more simplified, but with the multiple business you have. The last item I found is that I myself and the term on this board, different troopers have testified for the applicant to articulate why they're carrying their gun at the time. And this is clearly a case where you articulated that you had a handgun and the results were not very favorable for being honest and truthful. And your Fifth Amendment rights became an issue for you because of that. So I make the motion to overturn the Maryland State Police and remove the restriction on your license. I have a second on that motion.
Second.
And a second, Ms. Judah. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You'll be getting a decision letter. I can't see how soon we'll get it to you, but it does not become valid until 30 days after you receive that letter. The state police have the option to appeal that decision for 30 days upon their receipt. Okay, thank you very much.